Hey everybody, welcome to the Toka Monday Night live stream. We were just talking about whether if you are allergic to iron, you are therefore allergic to your own blood.
Oh my god.
I vote yes.
I thought we were going to leave that conversation behind. I didn't think we were going to open.
Listen, normally I have time to prepare, but today I showed up 5 minutes before the live stream because I got distracted talking about my D&D game. So I need to work with what I have on hand.
Which in your defense is because you've been trying to get session 1 going for 6 months and it finally happened. And I'm very happy for you.
So proud.
Very
it's a good campaign, but I
the
didn't
cult
even
of the
go
Pelican God of Death blew up the finger of an ancient dead god while the players were in it.
I didn't even go live on TikTok. It's going live now. I don't have a background up. Just realized, we're very prepared this evening. Let's talk about contracts. Okay.
Yeah, easily, this is the night that of all nights we can definitely just wing it. Like
Perfect.
Okay.
So we've got something special to show you all tonight. It is an insane contract that was given to a Toka member to sign for work for hire on a project. And we have, with permission of that creator, redacted key details of like the actual content of the project in question and the people involved. And we're going to go through it and talk about some of the things that this contract says and why they are not okay.
I'm kind of excited because I haven't seen it yet, which means I get to react in real time.
There's a couple of things that you're going to lose your entire mind. Like,
Good.
we're going to say them and you're just going to walk away. Like, that's the level of, genuinely, that's the level of weirdness in some of this stuff.
All right, here's our contract. We've also got this one on hand, which is a contract that Cecilia put together real quick through a legitimate service that helps content creators make contracts so that we can compare terms.
Do you have that Amazon one?
I can pull up the Amazon one.
Because I put it in the it's in the Discord. It's in the might be in VC chat.
Yep, I
just reading it. It's fine. But we kind of figured having one that was pretty standard boilerplate language that's sort of available for people to use. It's via the fact that I am the one who told you about this website yesterday, and today my brain is like, I've never heard of this website. I'm so tired. We're very prepared for this evening. Hang on.
As previously established, we are responsible and good at our jobs.
They're so good at it. It's called Creators Legal, and it's genuinely a very good resource for sort of like if you need an ad hoc contract here and there. They are assembled by real people with real legal knowledge. They're all sort of kept up to date with what is industry standard at the time, and they're very useful, and you can buy one for not very much money. The one I spent $15 whole and got this service contract, and it'll distribute it for you and get the electronic signatures for you as well and act as like a permanent database. It's a good service, genuinely, and I recommend it. But that's kind of a standard one. And then I also found one that's the same type of contract, but for Amazon. So a company that we know is going to exploit you.
Mm-hmm.
And we just wanted to hold up all of these examples so you can see like what's standard exploitation, like what are you gonna see in one of these, and what the fuck is happening in this contract here? Because it's not good.
No. And the really important thing is this contract is not good for anybody. Like, it's not good for the creator being hired because it's insane. It's also not good for the producer in question because it is legally indefensible and would immediately be thrown out in court. So it's not offering anyone any actual protection.
There are actually terms in there that are explicitly illegal in the United States. So
I'm so excited.
the other thing is this person is from the US. So I'm truly trying to figure out where they got some of these ideas from.
I mean, my guess is that they took like the reasonable language that we're going to talk about from things like the creators contract thingy,
and
and
like,
just
no,
edited
no,
it so that it said the thing they wanted it to say, unaware that the thing that they were editing it to say made it categorically indefensible. Because one of the things we're going to talk about is that like there are terms in here that look a lot like terms you would see in a normal contract. Like the general shape of the paragraph resembles a normal contract, but like certain specific words make the meaning different.
Okay. And so we are laughing and we are joking with this because it is a patently ridiculous contract when someone who has seen one before looks at it. If you have never seen a contract like this before, I can see where you would be like, yes, this is standard and normal and okay, and this is a thing that I should just sign and not to worry too much about the details.
Mhm.
This is coming from someone who explicitly has been taking advantage of people in her circle to work on projects, to the point where someone that we know lost their housing. That's like the extent of like they moved to try to work with this stuff, and it's not real at the end of the day. So like there are bad actors out there, and there are more than you would think, and they are very often not necessarily the people you would think they are. This creator is a relatively prominent creator on vintage TikTok. Seems nice as can be, collaborates with a lot of people. At this point, the people who have been like taken advantage of are really not comfortable with like calling this person out by name. But I assume if something else happens in the future, one of them will end up biting the bullet and saying like, hey, by the way, never work with this person in particular. But we
don't want to wind up starting a witch hunt here. Please don't go and start trying to guess. There are a lot of people on Vintage Talk. It's like
there are so many.
There are a lot of very sweet seeming people out there, and many of those people are genuinely just sweet people. Some of them aren't. And that's why we're going to talk about what it looks like when one of the ones who isn't gives you a contract.
Yeah. And the biggest red flag, aside from the entire contract, the biggest red flag was in the email exchanges when one of the people we are talking about had the wherewithal to show this to someone who is an actual lawyer. And that lawyer told them that these terms were laughable and this was not okay, and they were going to take over the communication. This creator's first response was something along the lines of, if I had known that you had legal representation, I would not have brought this contract to you. That's it. That's the end of the line. That's how you know. Is the second that you bring any kind of professional into it, they're like, no. We're not dealing with professionals here. It's only amateur hour. That was actually the thing that infuriated me the most. I used a word with Watson that I don't usually like. I was really mad. Anyway.
All right, so we've highlighted sections that we want to talk about in particular. And the first one here, producer will discuss my involvement on the project as a writer in good faith, and if I am engaged in connection with such writing services, producer will designate a reasonable fee and credit for my continued writing services consistent with the parameters of the project's budget. Now, Cecilia, do you want to say what that means about compensation?
So typically, yes. So typically, either one of these contracts will reference a different document that you are signing off on that has your specific fee, or it will reference a specific fee. This is saying we are not funded, but in the future, if we get funded, we will talk about maybe compensating you. Rough. That is never an okay term. If your possible payout in the future is questionable, if it's, you know, if your payout is contingent upon the work getting fully funded, that means that within that budget, that like we are fully funded now budget, there needs to be a line for what your salary is, what your payout is, what anything is. So they need to know that amount. If they don't know that amount, that means they don't have a budget. That means they don't know how to manage their money. That means that more likely than not, they are trying to get away with not paying you at all.
Yeah, like it's normal,
And that's
particularly.
in your face right now.
Just as someone who works contracts almost exclusively since the pandemic started, because that's what you can do for what I have. Like, the language here is both insidious and also like really dumb.
Yeah, right. It's
That is-
horrible.
that you will find that to be a theme.
Yeah, the theme of the contract is there are some sentences that I can't even parse because they don't necessarily make sense.
It took us so
I don't-
long with the
Yeah.
one that I'm excited to talk about.
Yeah.
This one is basically in my brain. It's you're volunteering your work for free. We might pay you maybe sometime in the future, but don't count on it.
Exactly.
That's the layman's terms of what that says, and that is just
Yeah. That's never an acceptable term.
Yeah, like
Unless you are actively signing on as a volunteer with no intention of ever asking for payment. If you are saying, nope, this is purely volunteer labor, and if I get paid in the future, that is a bonus. That is the only time it's acceptable to say, like, my payment in the future will be negotiable. And even then, I would say if the project is fully funded, I would still expect payout to be X amount.
correct.
yeah, like it's not insane for a project to say we can only pay you if we like actually get funded to do this project. It makes sense for a producer to not commit to paying somebody before they have money, but it is not therefore ever okay to not commit to how much money you would pay a person if you could afford to.
No.
I'm just dying at the producer will designate a reasonable fee.
Yes. The other thing is there is no guarantee.
Credit. The and credit, I think,
Yeah.
is actually
Uh-huh.
sending me.
Yeah.
We'll get into. There's a lot of.
Oh, you're gonna love the line about moral rights.
You're gonna fucking love it. So the other thing that's like getting to me about this is the producer will decide what your fee is. There is not any line about negotiation. There is not any line about you setting a fee. It is just whatever the producer hands you is the amount that you will be handed, which we will not define at this time.
Yeah. And there's also like it's normal in some kinds of contracts for like an undecided point to be established as like if this becomes something we need to decide, we will enter into arbitration under these terms. We will talk about the terms under which arbitration is handled in this contract.
No. So this is the first paragraph, and we are already in badly written, nebulous.
We're in a moral quandary.
This is like morally very weird and gray. Legally, it's still fine. Like we haven't gotten into illegal territory yet.
Mm-hmm. All right.
That paragraph is mostly gibberish. Is that the paragraph that includes
Moral rights.
No. The one above it is the one that includes like all the types of media, and it's like going back
references
to
CDI
99.
Your
Yeah.
disc?
Yeah.
CDI is Compact Disc Interactive. It is a type of software that was mainly used for Nintendo games in an unsuccessful system that was only produced during the 90s.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this contract does specifically reserve rights on CDI in case they want to release a Nintendo game in the 1990s.
And also Laserdisc.
And also Laserdisc.
Because sometimes you want a failed piece of media.
Yeah.
So this has obviously been pulled from potentially a very old contract, or one that just has not been kept up to date in terms of like what media distribution rights we're talking about. that is also a bad sign. I didn't highlight it because it's not like a legal issue, and it's not something we really need to like sit here and like parse out and take apart.
The
But, like,
idea
if
of
you think
reserving
it's that
rights,
outdated, ugh.
the idea of reserving rights for media for like all currently
longer
existing
exists.
and potentially invented forms is like that's a topic that is complicated, but it's not weird. It's a normal thing for companies to do, to say we want rights for all possible versions of media that could be invented later. And that's what this paragraph is doing. It's just doing it the way you would have done it if you were writing that paragraph in 1995.
Yes.
Oh man, this is some Back to the Future bullshit, is what this is.
It's not good. Anyway,
So let's get to the next highlighted paragraph, because I'm excited to hear Mike respond to this one. I hereby waive all rights of droit moral or moral rights of authors, or any similar rights or principles of law which I may now or later have in the material.
Yeah, it's bad. It's pretty remarkable.
I need a
I wanna
minute.
say, there is one type of media in the United States, and it is not it is not writing for hire. There is one type of media in which it is legal to waive your moral rights. Other than that, it's not. Like, that's not a thing you can do.
That type of media is visual art, by the way. But that's it. That's the only one. So that clause is just actually not legal. So this is the point in which a judge would look at this in arbitration and say, interesting, this contract is not valid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's just a note for everyone. Unless it is visual art, that clause is fully illegal.
Well, we don't know. Maybe they're taking a piece of written media, cutting it up, and making a lithograph of it.
For the benefit of the audience, moral rights are not like copyright. They are not a property that is like transferable. Moral rights are a legal protection that says that, like, as the artist, you have certain rights to be acknowledged as the creator of this work and to have the work represented in a way that like corresponds to your intention.
Yeah.
You do have moral rights over your work.
And it is not possible for you to give up your moral rights in your work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, my brain is just trying to find a way that this would make any fucking sense.
It doesn't. The issue is it doesn't. But again, if you are not familiar with this and you are under the impression that you are doing work for hire, which is sort of like a state within copyright law of I am writing this, but the corporation owns it. Mm-hmm. And if you are under the impression that this is, because this happens all the time with like series writers, once you're brought on to write the pilot, you do some writing, and then they bring you on, you sign one of these contracts, and now everything you write belongs to NBC. So if you are expecting to sign over at least that portion of your rights, your ownership of the work, and you are not used to this, I can see how you would say, like, oh yeah, moral rights of authors, that's probably something to do with the work for hire stuff.
No.
Yeah. It's not. You have that no matter what, unless again you sign it over in one of these agreements and it's visual art. That's it. It's the only one.
And to be clear, that is only in the United States. In the EU, moral rights are inalienable. Like, there is no circumstance under which you can waive your moral rights for the purpose of European markets.
Anyway, there's that. It's very bad. I highlighted maybe too much here, but it's all buck wild.
All right, so there's three sections of highlighting here. This first one, I believe, is the one that I'm excited to talk about.
It is.
I agree to execute any documents and do any other acts as may be reasonably required by producer or her assignees or licensees to further evidence or effectuate producer's rights as set forth in this agreement. Upon my failure to promptly do so within 3 business days following the receipt thereof, I hereby appoint the producer as my attorney in fact for such purposes, it being acknowledged that such appointment is irrevocable and coupled with an interest, with full power of substitution and delegation.
So, Yes, correct reaction.
If I ever saw this in anything, I would run so fast in the other fucking direction.
And
So
here's the thing that we want to.
Yeah, let's pull up
like
a
this-
normal looking one of these.
Let's see, where was it in?
Like
Here.
around the same point in the contract too, because they don't change all that much over the years.
Yeah, here I think this is it. If I fail to sign or deliver any document within, I will do it as reasonably necessary to further confirm producer's rights. If I fail to sign and deliver any document within 5 business days of producer's written request to do so, then producer will have the right to do so on my behalf as my attorney, in fact, solely for this purpose, with full power to sign, acknowledge, deliver, and record in the U.S. Copyright Office or elsewhere all such documents. Producer will provide me with copies of all the documents executed by producer on my behalf, provided the producer's inadvertent failure to do so will not be considered a breach of this agreement by the producer.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what that one says is, if we are specifically trying to prove that we have a right to use the material you did for us and you blow us off for a week, we can just like provide that proof on your behalf.
Yeah.
What this one says,
only for that purpose. Only for that purpose.
It is in the incredibly limited scope of whatever that piece of
Yes.
pick your media is.
Yes.
what this one says is, if the producer sends you an email asking you to do something and you don't within 3 days, they become your attorney.
I'm your lawyer now. It is literally taking the paragraph from the normal contract, deleting all the information that makes it applicable to that one specific kind of situation where it's just we need to prove that we have the right to use this media, and just said, you know, if you don't do what I ask you to do, I'm your attorney. Like,
And we should make the distinction. This is something somebody
Yes,
pointed out in
yes,
a comment section about this video. There is a difference between attorney and attorney in fact. And that difference is an attorney has obligations to their client. An attorney in fact is just allowed to make the client's decisions.
like the attorney has to do things in your interest. The attorney, in fact, doesn't give a fuck about you. They can do whatever is in their interest.
Mhm.
Yes. Yes. I
Also, it's the parentheses that's driving
Irrevocable and coupled with an interest.
it being acknowledged that such appointment is irrevocable and yeah, it's just like
and so many things about it are phrased badly, and that is one of the things that is phrased badly. And the whole paragraph is kind of put together in a very weird way, because the first part of this paragraph seems to be talking about the, like, yes, the nature of this work is work for hire. You do not own the copyright of this work. I own the copyright of this work. And then this second part, which should be relating back to the fact that this is work for hire and this is the, like, becoming your attorney at will, happens when we need to prove that the company owns the copyright and not you. It doesn't. It fails to do that. It's completely disconnected. And it's just like, anytime you don't do something, I'm your fucking lawyer now. And it's very strange. I do not know anyone who does work around contracts who would look at this and say, yes, this would hold up. This would not hold up. But
no.
you can see where like all the deletions happened from. And even if we look at the movie contributor version of this, the Amazon one, which is more exploitative, the whole contract is more like fussy and weird and full of weird terms. This is still the same goddamn thing. It's just a little more legalese.
Mhm.
Yeah, this one says, artist will, upon request, execute, acknowledge, and deliver the producer any and all documents consistent herewith. Producer may reasonably deem necessary to evidence and effectuate any, all or any of the producer's rights hereunder. Artist hereby irrevocably appoints the producer as attorney in fact with full power to execute, acknowledge, and deliver and record in the U.S. Copyright Office or elsewhere any and all such documents artist fails to execute and deliver within 5 business days of receipt of the producer's request. The appointment shall be a powered coupled with interest. Producer will provide artist with copies of any documents executed hereunder. So yeah, that one more confusingly phrased, but does like specifically constrain it to that
Well, yeah, that's the important part, is that there is a limited scope of how this can be applied.
Even Jeffrey Bezos is not trying to get away with the shit that this girl is getting away with. That's where we're at with this contract. That was my last straw in reading through this, of like, no,
The bar was on the floor, and this girl just
dug right under it.
slip and slide. Just
Yep.
All right, next up. All rights granted or agreed to be granted to producer under this agreement will vest in producer immediately and irrevocably, and will remain perpetually vested in producer, its successors, or assigns. Now, Cecilia, I believe you said that this is something that like isn't weird to see in a contract, but would normally be thrown out in the first round of negotiations.
Yeah, like it pops up all the time, and if you're being sent this, you might say like, listen, this will apply to you during your lifetime, but like I would like my heirs to have my rights, please.
right.
And that, and it depends on like how much power you actually have. People that are going into like season 3 of being a series regular writer have much more power to say like, hey, for this season, I would like the copyright rights to in part go down to somebody else, like my kid that I have now. It's not unusual for this to get thrown out. It's not unusual for this to exist, but also coupled with the rest of this paragraph, it becomes a weird nightmare scenario where like your grandchildren are bound to the grandchildren of this producer for the rest of their lives.
I further acknowledge that in the event of any breach by producer hereunder, I will be limited in my remedy at law for damages, if any, and will not have the right to terminate or rescind this agreement, or any of the rights granted hereunder, or to enjoin the development, production, distribution, advertising, or exploitation of the project, or the material, or any portion thereof. 2. Nothing herein shall obligate the producer to use my services or the results of proceeds thereof in the project, or to produce, advertise, or distribute the project. Now, so what that says is, if this contract is found to be void, this contract is not void.
Yes, pretty much.
If I am in breach of the contract, no, I am not. Also, I am your lawyer again. Like
This feels like every demon deal that has ever gone down in every Supernatural episode.
it is so circular. Like it looping back around from like, listen, I own the rights forever, and then whoever I assign to own those rights owns those rights forever. And by the way, if you want to enter arbitration with me because I am in breach of contract, no, I'm fucking not in breach of contract. Your grandchildren will owe me money. Like this is...
You're not just selling your soul. You're selling your whole family tree.
It just goes all the way down the line. I don't care who fights me how long in the future. I will never be in breach of contract. I am in charge here.
This is a weird Crossroads demon contract. I'm not.
A weird Crossroads demon contract. Yes. Yeah. So that's why, the first sentence is not unusual. Sometimes it would get thrown out. But coupled with the rest of this of like, I am never in breach of contract and legally I have all of this forever. What is that? What is that? No one, and again, like the Amazon contract does not have terms that are this bad.
Right.
Jeffrey Bezos is not trying to get away with this. Why did you think you could?
In fairness, Jeffrey Bezos can also afford many lawyers who actually understand what they're doing.
Because no lawyer would ever write into a contract, if I'm in breach of contract, no, I fucking am not.
Moving on. This agreement shall be binding upon me, my heirs, executors, administrators, licensees, associates, affiliates, legal representatives, successors, and assigns.
Again, it's not unusual, but oftentimes this would get maybe thrown out. And also it's completely unnecessary because we've already listed that. So like the doubling down is very weird. And again, most people would edit it out.
And again, the provisions of this agreement shall survive the expiration or termination of my services and my work in connection with the project. And those provisions include, if you don't answer my email for 3 days, I'm your lawyer.
I'm your lawyer.
What if you don't, what if you don't answer because you died?
It's too bad because they own all the rights forever.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're the executive of your will.
Survives the expiration or termination. You've expired. Sorry.
If you die, they become the executor of your estate. How does contract work?
All right. Next up, no casual or inadvertent failure to comply with the credit provisions herein, if any, nor any failure by third parties to comply with their agreements with the producer shall constitute a breach of this agreement by the producer.
If we don't give you credit, that's a little whoopsie doodle, and it's not a breach of contract. That's an absolutely. I have.
It's also, again, redundant because you have at this point already waived your moral rights.
True.
And
no, if this ever showed up in a contract for me, like, no, absolutely not.
I have seen the failure by third parties to comply with their agreements portion. I've seen, like, if people outside of the producer accidentally screw up and do not print your name, that's not the producer's fault. I've seen that many, many times. But this whole business of, like, if the producer screws up and does not give you proper credit, oops, not a breach of contract. You don't have rights anyway.
Like, if you're going to include that, there also needs to be a recourse clause.
Correct.
Isn't one.
There's not.
All right. And finally, I shall duly execute, acknowledge, and deliver to producer, or cause to be executed, acknowledge, and deliver to producer, any and all assignments or instruments which producer may deem necessary to carry out and effectuate the purposes and intent of this agreement, including without limitation separate assignments of any rights granted by me in this agreement. In the event I fail to execute any such instrument within 3 business days after producer's request, therefore, unless a shorter period of time is reasonably required by producer, I hereby irrevocably appoint producer as my attorney in fact, which appointment shall be deemed a power coupled with an interest, with full rights of substitution and delegation to execute, acknowledge, and deliver any such instruments in my name and on my behalf. So we think this one's here just in case, like, a judge reads this contract and says, well, this paragraph is void. The producer can just say, okay, well, I've got it here as well. So you haven't stricken it both times. So
I'm a double lawyer.
I'm also concerned by the addition of the unless a shorter period of time is reasonably required by producer, because the front half of this paragraph is the exact amount of vague that makes the second half of this paragraph a problem.
Yes, correct. Yeah. There's
any and all assignments or interests which producer may deem necessary.
Yep.
To carry out and effectuate the purposes and intent of this agreement.
Yeah.
Including without limitation separate assignments of any rights granted by me in this agreement.
Which is
like, that says if I decide that actually you promised me more work than you promised me,
I am allowed to.
And you owe me that work. If you can't do that work for me, you owe someone else doing that work for me on your behalf. And if you don't do those things, I'm your lawyer.
Not even just that. If you don't do those things in the time that I think is reasonable, which, considering I assumed that I would already have these in hand, could be hours. You're in breach of contract, and now I'm your lawyer.
And this one also, like, doesn't even have proximity to a paragraph about, like, this being about confirming that, like, you did actually sign over these rights.
Yeah.
It's funny because, like, where the other one didn't really have a scope, like, it was a very just ambiguous. This is specifically like there is no scope.
Yes.
The scope does not exist.
Yeah, the other one was ambiguous in part because I genuinely think there was just, like, deleting of language that was too specific. I don't know where this got pulled from, but yeah, it made it so that the scope is all.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Which, again, I do not know anyone who would look at that and say, like, yeah, that will definitely hold up in court. Because as Micah said, the implication is, like, if I decided that you actually owed me a rewrite of this particular scene, I can ask you to do that within 2 hours because I expected to have that rewrite already. Yeah. And I can consider that a reasonable amount of time.
Correct me if I'm wrong here, but I believe that there's nowhere in this contract that actually spells out anything more specific than you've agreed to do work for this project.
Does it say in the very beginning? Because it usually says like what the type of work is in the first sentence. Yeah, intend to work as a writer on the development of a TikTok digital media series.
Right. So
That's about as specific as these usually get.
Yeah.
Yeah. This isn't like a shit, what's the name of it? This isn't a work agreement where it like lists out specifically, here's the exact amount of work you will be doing. Here are the exceptions to that rule. Here is like the number of hours I expect to be paying you for, like you would see with like a 1099 contractor. This
right,
is
and I think that, like this is a reasonable amount of vague for a contract, but like this amount of vague coupled with, and also if you don't do anything that I've decided falls within the scope of this contract,
Yeah.
I become your lawyer. At
Yeah.
that point, this amount of vague becomes dangerous.
yes,
Correct.
it very
The
much
rest of the contract were a
normal.
reasonable and effectively put together document. This amount would not be a problem and would be pretty par for the course. But because it is, again, as you said, vague, you add this to the vagueness of the body and then the complete obliteration of any amount of limitations of scope. Like, this could literally be, I need you to write down my coffee order and then get me my
that could
coffee.
fall within the scope of like working on the development.
Yes.
Yeah, because the rest of the contract is so unreasonable that level of vagueness where you just accept that both parties are reasonable parties and you say, I am working as a writer on this project as it develops, that is no longer a thing that you can actually take for granted. Right.
It's like, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, I believe that the way the contract is spelled out right now, if the writer had taken like a 4-day vacation and set their email to like a do not disturb bounce, and the producer had sent the writer an email on day one of that vacation saying, hey, can you write this for me real quick? On day 3 of that vacation, the producer could sign a new contract on behalf of the writer, entering into even worse terms.
Yeah, potentially.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the other contracts were like the 5 day. Again, it's only in that it's because the scope is so limited in what that 5 days is actually for, and that's again, it's just a copyright issue. It's just establishing rights.
Yeah,
This
it's literally
is
just like,
whatever.
hey, if we need to provide somebody paperwork that proves that you signed these rights over so that we can like confirm that we're allowed to air this,
Yeah.
you need to help us do that. And if you blow us off in that for more than a week, we can just do that for you.
And
Correct.
again, it's not even like they'd be sending them anything crazy. They would be sending them a copy of the contract that you signed that states all of these things. It's not the same as whatever it said in the first go around of I will be your lawyer.
Mhm.
Of like, and it's just any work.
Yeah, and this one also doesn't at any point spell out that producer owes the writer copies of any of the documents they executed for them as their attorney in fact.
I didn't even notice that shit.
I only just noticed it right now.
Because technically they're not under any legal obligation to do that, in part because you are the one who signed it. You should have your own copy. But most of the other contracts say, like, we'll try.
I mean, the other contracts explicitly say, if I recall correctly, the other contracts explicitly say, if we do anything as your employee in fact, or as your attorney in fact, we will give you explicit documentation of every single thing we did.
I think it said like within reason or something like that. Oh yeah, producer's inadvertent failure to do so will not be considered a breach of contract of the agreement by the producer. So like you will provide me with copies, but if you don't, that's not a breach of contract.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But I will be mad at you.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
It's like the subtext.
And
yeah,
the Amazon contract doesn't even give themselves that out.
Yeah. They just will provide it.
Yeah.
Nothing. So you actually wouldn't know. They're actually under no obligation to tell you what they signed on your behalf. Yeah. Again, this is not the kind of thing that you would sign and then it would hold up in court. But it is really unfortunate that more likely than not, it would come to you having to go to court to take care of this, because this is not written by someone who wants to compromise. And this is not written by someone who is acting in good faith. This is written by someone who is looking to take advantage of you as much as humanly possible.
Right. And the kind of people signing this contract are probably the kind of people who can be threatened with the fear of going to court.
Yes.
Enough to get them to not bring the suit.
I mean, considering that the response to I had a lawyer look at it was, well, I wouldn't have sent you that if I knew there was a lawyer involved. Yeah, they can absolutely be bullied by the threat of legal action.
That was actually said directly to the lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
Because the lawyer said, hey, I'm going to be communicating on behalf of my client. And the response was, well, if I knew they had a lawyer,
I would not have tried this shit.
I wouldn't have tried this bullshit.
If I'd known somebody was going to care what I was saying, I would have said something a little different.
I wouldn't have made myself your attorney for not doing things exactly when I wanted them. Yeah. So that's what a bad contract looks like. And again, this is the kind of thing where you can see where the changes were made. And Micah, you are an experienced contractor and you have signed and read through many of these documents in your life. But you can see where, and the people involved in this are young. And that is actually the thing that gets me like the most irrationally angry, is that the people involved in this are in their 20s. They are just starting out in their professional careers.
Cecilia,
yeah.
I just want to interject for a moment. That's not irrational anger.
Okay, thank you. It is rational anger. They are young. The reason I'm angry is because in particular, the person who got like the most badly taken advantage of is really fucking brilliant. And I get upset at the idea of someone taking advantage of someone who is genuinely very talented and very dedicated and so enthusiastic about making good art, that they would get hurt in this way. That shit pisses me right the fuck off.
Yeah, like extremely eager to like ready to make themselves vulnerable.
Yes.
In pursuit of doing something that they think is artistically worth it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it is a not uncommon predatory practice.
Yes.
Like,
it's not
I think every person who goes out into the workforce encounters this in some way, shape, or form in the first 3 years that they're out in, the adult workforce.
Yes.
And it's because people count on you not understanding and not knowing these things.
And it's extra hard in creative fields.
Yes.
Because there isn't as much guidance. People are a little bit close-lipped about like what they're earning and what their contracts look like. Everyone's really dodgy and weird about it, and they don't need to be. And I would really like to cultivate a culture where we're just openly like post the contracts to Discord, guys. Just
seriously, straight up. Like, if you have any questions about your contracts, fucking drop them in our chat. Like,
we will rip them to shreds if we need to.
This is what Toka's for. Like, we don't have the resources to put together like big funds for a lot of like major actions. One of the things that we can offer right now with the resources we have is people with expertise being there for fellow creatives to help understand the things we're thinking about signing.
Yeah. Yeah. And like that's the thing about it, is that so many of us have been doing this long enough that we've already made these mistakes. We don't want you to make the same ones because we know how much it sucks, and it's not fair.
And I really want to emphasize too that it's so important to understand with contracts that like the little fragmentary changes to sentences are massively impactful. You cannot just assume that because a sentence is roughly shaped the same way that this sentence has been in other contracts you've seen, it's therefore a standard and legitimate sentence.
I need you to know that every time you've said that it's contract shaped or sentence shaped, my brain is like, it's a mimic. It looks like a contract until you start opening it up.
Is it?
More taste right now to plug Amelia's postcards.
No, do it.
A Toka member, Toka moderator Amelia Som has made a bunch of D&D themed postcards. One of them is just a postcard that says it's a postcard, and then you open it up and it's got teeth and it says, "Kidding, it's a mimic."
Yes.
It's great. It's wonderful.
She has another one that I love that's crying is a free action.
I just ordered that one.
Beautiful. They make great gifts for your D&D minded friends. I just got them for my roommate's birthday recently.
Good job. But this is like slightly back. That was only slightly off topic because again, this is like, please rely on my late teens and early 20 somethings. Please rely on us, the 30 somethings in your midst. I cannot express to you how instrumental the like Gen Xers that I was working with on movie sets were to my development as a person and as an actor and as somebody who could advocate for themselves. They were the first people to tell me like, hey, remember when they did that thing yesterday? That was not cool and you should report it to SAG-AFTRA. The majority of us have been through the ringer and we're very tired. And we don't want to see it happen to anybody else. And the fact that like out there on the fringes of my community, this person was trying to rope people in with this horrible contract that looked kind of legitimate, really makes me angry. I'm going to stop calling it irrationally angry. It's legitimately angry. I'm angry for a reason. Yeah.
Like, please, like we want to go to bat for you on these things. We want to help you.
You know how quickly I would take a bullet for a teenager? Jesus Christ. I just, this is why I had to have this conversation with myself because I'm going into education. I have to be willing to maybe literally take a bullet for a kid. Yeah, I would do that for almost any kid in a fucking heartbeat.
We did not start a content creators union to avoid helping content creators.
No. It is in fact explicitly what I really want to do.
Right.
Thank you for summing it up that succinctly. Yeah. So that's that for today. Was there any other news that we like needed to go through quickly?
There's the class action thing.
I was gonna say it's worth TikTok's class action.
Yeah. Do you want one whole shiny penny from Father TikTok?
Take it. Don't let them keep it.
Sorry, my God.
Mental
touch.
Commemorative coin.
I was gonna say I'm gonna take that shiny penny and put it through one of those coin crank press things.
I literally, if it is some denomination that I can pull out of PayPal in a bill or like put over to my bank account and pull it out in a bill, I will frame that fucking bill and put it on my wall and be like,
"This is a penny in a shadow box."
Money. That's all I want.
Oh my God, just Mr. Krabs style with his first dollar.
My first dollar.
You get the penny and you get a shadow box, little dab of hot glue on the back, put a thing of fishing wire through it, and then just loop it to the top and the bottom and have it like floating.
It's just floating there.
Yeah.
Like I'm guessing the payout is probably going to be
17 cents.
No, it'll be some amount of coins, but like amount wise, it'll be commensurate to how many years you were on TikTok previous to.
It'll be
October 1st.
A TikTok walking down the street and throwing loose change from his pants, and whatever you catch is what you catch. Someone actually did do a decent breakdown and estimate. Okay, we're talking about the class action lawsuit. We did not
Explain that.
Explain that. There were actually one that sort of spawned into two class action lawsuits. One was in particular on behalf of the state of Illinois, because Illinois has a lot of very good laws around not collecting biometric data from people, which can we all please catch the fuck up? And then the rest of the United States. So if you're in Illinois, you are technically guaranteed a slightly higher payout. The amount was like $90 million, but there's like 89 million TikTok users, something like that. Like we're all going to get handed $1.
I think TikTok has over 1 billion users worldwide at this point.
I'm trying to, because it's only for US users.
Right.
Yeah.
But if you are a US user, you can file for this class action lawsuit to get a settlement payment. If you are in Illinois, I believe that's where you have to have made content. If you're in the US, I don't believe you have to have made content. I thought it was specified. It might not actually be specified that you have to have made content.
It is. I looked at the thing. You have to have made content, I think, for both before October 1st of this year.
Okay. So you do have to have made content.
Yes.
In either case.
Yes.
Lurkers do not apply.
Apparently.
Okay.
Which means maybe we get a whole quarter.
A whole quarter. So the money. So this is there were like concerns in the Discord of like, what if there's retaliation from TikTok? Which, like, guys, no. The lawsuit has already been lost, and they have to pay this money. They don't get
so cartoonishly expensive to keep track of and retaliate against creators for requesting their 30 cents.
I would like my 30 cents, please.
It also wouldn't matter because the way that payouts work, like, it's truly a matter of this money is already allocated. It has to be paid out in that amount. It's just a matter of you get however much it needs to be split by.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This is
So I do encourage everyone to do it, and I do encourage everyone to like tell their friends, hey, that notification from TikTok was real. The problem with it going out as a notification was that it did seem to crash the website, since they did send a notification saying, hey, there was a class action lawsuit, click here.
But
every
also,
single user in the US.
If you're like me, you didn't even get the notification. You had to physically go in and get it because your notifications have been screwy for the last 3 days.
I also didn't get the notification.
Oh, I got the notification. It popped right up to the top, right underneath my like 50 report. Check on the status of your report notifications from the other night.
Yeah, I literally had to go into the TikTok center and like physically go to that stupid bar that I can never find.
Yeah,
to get there. And I will say I was able to fill it out without it crashing on my phone at like, I want to say 4:00 today.
Hi, Michael. Thanks for dropping in. And yeah, SAD does suck. I'm sorry about the season.
The season is
the sun decided to be not in the sky.
In other news, so anyway, go get your shiny penny from TikTok and frame it and put it on your fucking wall. If you make any content on TikTok and made content before October 1st, 2021, you are eligible to go and collect that payout. In other news, IATSE ratified their agreement. It happened. No one's going on strike.
And we're all very happy for and proud of IATSE members, and we support them.
I support them. It was close. I don't think we have the final numbers yet, but it was close enough that, again, IATSE Instagram's a little messy right now, and I would just recommend not being there for a little while.
But also, isn't the current deal only for the next 3 years?
I mean, that's how all of these labor agreements work, is you have this period of time and then they get ratified and then you go back into negotiations, and inevitably you're working without a contract for a while, and then the agreement gets ratified or it doesn't. Canada's is coming up next year.
Okay.
So that's the next place to watch is the Canadian locals as a whole all vote together in one block for like the stage contract, or not the stage, the film contracts. And that is where I can see some of this, because they didn't get to vote in this. This was all the US.
Right.
And this was only specific locals within the US. So that's where I can see things like in the future maybe turning into a strike situation again. There's still a lot of controversy. They are going to settle this amongst themselves. But yeah, it is ratified, so there's no imminent strike. Unless there's a wildcat strike, which again, don't go on IATSE TikTok right now, and don't go on IATSE Instagram, because it's a little messy and everyone's kind of mad.
Yeah.
Give them a week and everyone will have sorted themselves out.
Yeah.
And with that, I think we're going to wrap up for tonight. Thanks everyone for coming. This will be up on YouTube soon, so that folks who didn't catch the whole stream can watch our discussion of what an exploitative contract looks like, and our righteous anger at exploitation of young creators.
But before we go, if you'd like to help fund our ability to help you with things like exploitative contracts and other tools, you can support us on our Patreon, which has different tiers that you can do what you are comfortable with and reasonably able to do. And you can find the links to both the Patreon and the Discord in the chat.
That's it. Good night, everyone.
Night.
Bye.